Last week we had a really good conversation about how growth is, sometimes annoying and that it doesn't mean that you're going to have no bad days. It means you're going to be able to process them better. Today we're going to be sort of taking that, but then taking it a step further in some of the things where we are seeing this show up, and specifically talking about what do you do when you have conflicting values and how are you approaching that? So, Angela, I know this is something that you think about a lot, you notice it a lot. How do you think about the concept of conflicting values? Maybe nobody's even thought about that before.
Well, I think that first I want to define it because it is not that you have two values that are at odds with each other and you feel like this weird pull.
I want to
It's
be generous and I don't want to be generous.
right.
Conflicting values.
That's not what I'm talking about. Ironically, conflicting values show up at a point in time or in a season of time. And where I learned about this first was way back in the day. My I had set the financial goal, to save enough money. The idea of having 3 months emergency fund, and I was like, I want to be more responsible, and we were doing a good job of that. And then it comes around April, and we're trying to make plans for the summer. And as you know, all of my in-laws live in Canada, and Barry's dad was saying, hey, we're going to have a Canada Day party July 1st. And you guys should come. And we hadn't gone to it in maybe ever. I don't think we'd ever gone to it at this point in time. And so I was like, oh, I want to go. Oh, but I can't go. And my friend said, this is weird. You love to travel. You never question whether you should travel. You love your extended family. You have a belief, you want your kids to have a relationship with your extended family. Why is this hard for you right now? That's weird. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, you're right, it is hard. Why is that? That's so weird. People that know me now are like, what? You ever had angst over traveling? Anyway, and so I was like, oh, wait a minute. I've set the goal that I want to have an emergency fund, and I'm doing a good job of setting aside savings. But to go on this trip will cost us, $1,000 back then, because we're just driving to Canada. We had lodging, everything. And so, it is in conflict. I want to have a relationship with my family is in conflict at this moment, in this period of time, with I want to be more financially responsible and save money. And so I was like, okay, well, at this moment in time, I have to make a decision. It is July 1st only comes once a year. I will have the rest of the year that I can save up. So I'm going to choose to go ahead and take that trip to see their in-laws. And that means that when I'm feeling tired and I just want to run through the drive-through and pick up dinner and blow $25, can you imagine we could get dinner for a whole family for $25 back then? Anyway, I can't do that. I can't just pop in and spend, $10 on Sonic just because I feel like it, because that would be out of alignment with that value. And so to stay in alignment with my values, I had to consciously choose at this moment, I am going to spend the money the rest of the year, the other 51 weeks of the year. I'm going to be careful. And so I have found this to show up in lots of different ways. And especially I see it when people are angsty about something. Like, oh, that's hard. Oh, that's hard. I have two different things that I hold very, very dear. I want to spend time with my family. I want to be a woman of my word. I've made this promise. And so just taking a moment. So that's what I want to unpack today, and really kind of what are some ways that we can identify when we have a conflicting value? How do we move forward? And then some practical things that I've seen.
I think that this is something that people are probably experiencing a lot of the time without ever having a name for it. And there's a couple of different people who I have followed over the years, and some of the principles I have grabbed onto that really help. One of them is Kendra Adachi, who wrote the book The Lazy Genius. She also has Lazy Genius Way podcast. Really, really great person. Love to recommend her. Her very first principle, she has 12 Lazy Genius principles, is decide what matters most. And sometimes, and she says what matters most can change in the seasons. Like, you got to give yourself permission for that. And it is, you can also have like, these things all matter. These four or
Yes.
five things all matter. Sometimes it is really helpful to be able to know which thing matters the most. So then when I end up in a situation where, golly, I have to pick between two things that matter, one of these matters more. And one of these, and sometimes it can be like, well, it's not that it doesn't matter to save money. It is, this is a limited time thing. And so maybe other times and other experiences, they say, hey, you should come back in August for another thing that we're going to do. And
Right.
you can be like, I'm not going to make that same decision. We
Right.
prioritize this time, like we prioritize going. Next time, I might prioritize saving money.
Yeah.
And that's
Saving money.
okay. That's allowed.
Well, and you think about when everybody's like, oh, we're family first. Family first. Oh, I'm going to put family ahead of my job. Yes. And you can't do that like when you are prioritizing your family when you show up and do a good job and you earn an income and then you get to pay your
That is
bills,
true.
right? So even
Your
there's
kids probably like to eat.
they really do, and they like to, have their
They like to eat so many freaking snacks too. And snacks cost a lot of money. I don't know if you guys have seen the economy these days. Forget the price of eggs and milk. Let's talk about the price of snacks. And that requires you to work and earn money. And so sometimes it is still about your family, even if it's working. And you can go that too far.
I think that is the thing,
extremes.
is that everything can go to the extreme, and we do need balance. I will tell you one that crops up kind of a lot for me is that is very, very, very important for me to be a woman of my word. Like, if I tell you I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. And one of the things that I've learned in being able to hold true to that value is that means I also had to get really good at saying no. I had to get really, really good at saying, I have to be careful how many promises I make. If it's important to me to deliver on the promises, then I can't say yes to everything and I can't promise everybody everything. I have to be careful about how many projects I promise to have done by Friday, right? Because I can't, there's just capacity limitations.
To our point that we made last week, there are times where you only have so much capacity. Like,
yes,
you can want to do all these things for everyone. And at the end of the day, you don't have a time machine and you can't redo the day over again with another fresh 8 hours.
right.
You only have so many hours.
Yeah. And there are times where I'm like, wow, I would really love to go and explore the outdoors and be, take time in the middle of the day and do whatever I want to do. And there are promises that I've made. Now, it's also very important to me to build relationships. And so that does mean that I am okay blocking time on my calendar to go have coffee with people. And so I don't get to do it 7 coffees. It's kind of interesting. When I was writing my book and I had so much more flexibility and freedom, and I was having like 4 or 5 coffees a week, and some days I missed that. And now I have to do things like, it's really important for me to spend time with friends. So last Saturday morning at 8:15, I was walking in the door at a restaurant having breakfast with a friend, because with our work schedules, and she's like, I'm an early riser, so whenever you're ready on Saturday, yeah, let's go and do this thing. And so I do have to be careful and cautious about the things. There's also times when I have to be true to myself. So I am part of the National Speakers Association. We've had lots of guests there, and those trainings are on Saturday mornings from 9 to 12. That's also the time that there's soccer. But it's only one Saturday morning a month. And so I have literally had to do calculations and go, there's been Saturday mornings where I want to go show up and see my grandkids play soccer, and I'll be like, golly, I don't really feel like it today. Wait a minute. Next week is an essay. That's really important to me. So I'm going to go ahead and do the thing that I don't feel like doing today to stay in alignment with my value, so that next week I don't feel bad that I'm skipping soccer when I'm prioritizing this thing that also feeds my soul. right? That is another thing, is people will be like, oh, well, it's for me. Yes, it is for me. I'm going to miss a portion of a birthday party because I had put a massage on my calendar before a birthday party got added to it. I'll be there late. And so you can prioritize yourself in those conflicting values. You have to be a lot more intentional and strategic.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to hold back any facetious comments I have about why are we prioritizing 3-year-old and 6-year-old soccer? They don't want to play anyway. And I'll keep all those comments to myself.
You know why I prioritize them is because actually it's not the 6-year-old on the 6-year-old on the field, though. There were so many times when we were there and when he was not on the field and he would come and sit in my lap. And he would just snuggle into me. And I was like, this is why you got out of bed this morning. This is why. And then the other grandkids would show up a few minutes later and then they would snuggle in my lap. And I'm like, this is why I'm showing up. Because what I'm learning, especially in the season of grandparenting, is that 10 to 15 minutes kids are cool with. Like they don't, they kind of get bored. We had Henry after church one day, and after like 4, he's like, I want to go there because I can watch TV and I don't have to take a nap. And after 4 hours, because we did take a nap, he goes, can I go home? And I'm like, and we were like, no, not for another hour, but we can play. Do you want us to play blocks? And we got you that new toys. And we got down on the floor. And then an hour later, he didn't want to go home. He wanted us to actually have time. So anyway, side tangents.
Yeah.
It's amazing how little some of the things take to stay in alignment with those values.
So how do you notice that you're in a spot with conflicting values? What can I do if I'm like, Angela, I've never experienced this, and I've definitely never experienced this, so I don't know what you're talking about. They probably have. And like, how do you notice it? How do you start to tune into that?
Yeah, I would say most of the time it is, you'll notice angst that you have, sort of like my friend knows that I love to travel. So why am I having angst about traveling? So you'll notice some angst, and angst can look different. Some people are fretting, some people are worrying, some people default and say, oh, I could never do that. And so typically you'll see some angst. The other thing is if you feel like you can't decide, like, I'm feeling very indecisive. This should be an easy choice. Why do I not know the answer to this? Well, it's because you have two warring things in your brain going, you have to be a good mom. You want to be a good business owner. Like they're at odds with each other. I mean, a few episodes ago, we talked about mom guilt, and moms, I think, experience this a lot. And we call it mom guilt in that episode, but when we are with our children, we wish we were at work, or we're thinking about the things we should be doing at work. Not
or
that maybe
work
not that
even wishes we were at
or work is we're wish. Yeah. And then when we're at work, we're feeling bad that we're missing out on our children. Right. And so that can be a conflicting value, which is probably why the reframe of like, no, when I go to work, I am earning money so that my children can have these resources and
all these snacks.
All the snacks. Also, I can remember my sweet husband saying, I think daycare might be cheaper than the therapy that our children will need because you are extremely unhappy being a full-time stay-at-home mom. And he goes, I think we need to get them in at least part-time daycare. It'll be cheaper. It'll be cheaper than your therapy. It'll be cheaper than their therapy. Like, so.
Well, and even if it is not financially cheaper, I think it is still allowed to say like the cost that may not be financial, the mental, emotional toll and cost that this is taking is not worth it. I'd rather pay money than deal with this emotional and mental cost that we are facing.
I'm not somebody.
Even if somebody is not going to say that like, oh, it's not about the therapy. No. It still is a cost.
There is a cost.
Even if it's not a financial cost.
Same guy. A couple years later.
Same husband.
Same human. A few years later, when Lexi went to kindergarten, I put in notice to quit my job 2 weeks after she went to kindergarten. And he goes, wow, most people go back to work full time when their kid goes to kindergarten. And I go, well, I don't have to pay for preschool anymore. Number one. Number two, I don't know how to be the mom to a sixth grader. And I have a sixth grader this year. And so I'm going to try to figure that out. I'm going to get myself, especially back then, I was I was very 100% in business. And even though I was only working 25, 30 hours a week, I mean, it was all the time. And I did about 40-hour week job in 24, 28 hours a week. And so it was very intense, and I needed that capacity in my brain. And so now that year, I also became very active in the PTA, and the next year I was PTA president, and I worked in the same sort of way in a volunteer capacity, but I really took some time to learn how to be a mom to middle schoolers. Josh gets to middle school and he goes, I don't need you to be the PTA anything. I'd rather you come and sit beside me. You don't need to be the homeroom mom. You don't need to be any of that. I want you to come sit beside me in those. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, there's so much difference in how I needed each season of my life to show up. And to your point, what those costs were, after a few years, turns out I did need to actually work. I was generating about 50% of the monthly income. So yeah, we had to make some different choices after a few years, but I'm grateful. I will never, ever regret those 2 years that I spent that time learning how to be a mom to school age kids.
So coming back up the rabbit trail a little bit, this is kind of how we identify them. And when we identify some of our conflicting values, when things might be showing up for us, then what? Because there's some times where my own life situation right now, I am a new business owner and I have 3 small children and I have a husband that I adore. And like, there are times where it's like there are competing needs and not all of the needs are going to get met. And at a certain point, what's really hard for me where I am sitting right now is that it's like, neat. I don't have enough to go around. And so my choices feel like I could either give everybody a substandard amount of what they want. If they want 100%, I can give everybody 60%. And that's about my capacity. Or I can let some things drop and I can go give more to 2, maybe one of the areas. I think about this. We had like a Christmas marathon season, the 2 weeks of holiday break that my kids had off of school. We had something almost every single day. That is not something I really want to repeat. However, it is a priority for us to spend time with family. And it was a gift of time to a lot of these different people in our life. I probably will end up in a similar situation next year, even knowing that it is going to be hard and is going to take a lot out of me and it's not going to be a lot of rest, because I know that even though rest is important, like, this matters. Where I will adjust next year is that then I will actually, like, I do need to buffer some rest before I can re-enter work well. Like, I can't run myself completely dry and then like expect to be at full capacity the next day. I just end up in the spot where I'm like, cool, nothing's going to work out. And I just get to like not even feel 100% in any of my values. I don't like this. Sometimes that is where we're at.
So here's what I would say is I would say that the most common thing that I would say, the practice that I have learned to cultivate that I think equips me the best to navigate these situations is that I have worked really hard to become the kind of person who is where I am. Be present where you are. What that means is that it is 98% of the time when I am sitting with you at coffee or at lunch, my phone goes off. I don't even look at it. I only will be like, that is a kid calling that never calls me. That is a husband. If I'm like, no, they have, hey, I'm going to be aware of that because somebody has a potential that I'm their safety net, right?
When you are a caretaker in some way for
That's
somebody,
correct.
there is a part where
Yes,
it's like, I
yes.
have to like
But that doesn't mean that
hold
I
this
check
much space.
yes, that doesn't mean that, and for moms,
Yes, I was
that
like,
doesn't
I'm going to
mean
get a call from the school and I'm probably going to answer
absolutely.
it, even if
And
we're in
you
the middle of coffee.
absolutely. So I'm not saying that this is like, deal breaker, but also there's been times where I just don't even take my phone in. I've got it on my watch and I just like, for an hour, the world isn't going to end. I don't have little people. So
Yeah.
being present where I am. I think this is kind of the reason why I get behind on email is because when I am with somebody, with a client, and I'm working on client work, I'm not checking email. I'm trying not to check Slack. I am being present where I am. And one client got really upset about this one time. And I said, if I'm billing you at your billing rate, do you really want me to be answering their phone call? Oh no. Like, yeah, yeah, let's have a little consideration there. And so that's the number one thing, is because then it's like, so for you in this season of children, like you already had negotiated with your job that you are only going to work 32 hours a week,
Mhm.
and that you take Fridays off, Friday afternoons off, and Friday mornings we're doing podcasts, which are a little more fun and typically a little more fulfilling. And so
Mhm.
that way, typically on Fridays, you're not having to give a lot of creative juice. And so that's some of the ways that you may have to do it. I would think about it in terms of like, there's some ideas around energy. And like, if you're a first thing in the morning, then like, make sure you get your work done first thing in the morning. If you're a late afternoon, then figure out how you can spend that late afternoon, and figure out the few things that like, I'm not going to get 19 things done today, but
Mhm.
there's 3 things I'm going to get done. I'm going to feel really good about them. When it comes to your kids, you have discovered that, and I have discovered, 15 minutes on the floor,
Mhm.
looking them in the eye without my phone, without anything, they get bored. They,
So we call it the 10-minute miracle, and it's not a we thing. I will credit Big Little Feelings. Also, go follow them on Instagram. It's great. I'm just going to recommend all these other people today. The 10-minute miracle, and it's not. It is a little bit more when we're doing that. And now I'm going to name it and call it out loud. The 10-minute miracle. I am telling the kids, hey, this is your 10 minutes, and you are in charge of everything we do for 10 whole minutes. Would you like to press start on your timer, or would you like me to press start on the timer? And then they get complete autonomy and control over that 10 minutes. Whatever they want goes, as long as it's like not dangerous and not unsafe. But
you don't
it
like to play cars, but they want to play cars for 10 minutes. You're going to
they
play
want to
cars
play.
for 10 minutes.
I really, 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 really get annoyed whenever I play pretend games with my kiddos and then I do everything wrong. I like playing pretend games. Don't get me wrong. I really like it. But it'll be like, oh, cool, we're playing kitchen. Like, do you want me to be the chef? Do you want me to be the like person? Like, no, you're not doing. And I'll be like, oh, or I'll sit down and be like, oh, look at the menu. That's not a menu. You're not holding anything real. I'm like, okay, I did that wrong too. And like, I just keep getting told I'm doing it wrong. I don't like that. And I'm like, you can survive being told you're doing everything wrong for 10 minutes. Like, that's fine. Just, it's 10 minutes and that's all you have to do. But that, and I do that. And we make a really big point. This kid is in charge for this 10 minutes. And then I got to move on. And then I got to go get dinner ready and like get these things moving. And that's okay. So I think that that's true. I also want to add something to be where you are, only because I have experienced this a couple of times. I am really confident in the things that are my values and that are important to me. I've gotten to a place where I'm really confident in this. And so, similar to your client that was annoyed that you weren't taking their phone call, I have people who like want me to be available to communicate with them all the time. And I'm like, I'm not, or they'll get mad at me that I didn't text them back fast enough. And I'll be like, I'm not on my phone. That is not a priority to me. And if you are looking for somebody to work with who can text you back in 10 minutes of every text you send me, number one, let's stop doing business over text because you're driving me crazy with it. I am not somebody who wants to be accessible 24/7. That is not
Yeah.
how I do great and excellent work. And if that's what you're looking for, somebody who's accessible, you're going to have to go find somebody different. And I have actually said those words to somebody else, that if you need someone accessible 24/7, that is not me. And I am confident in that. And I am very comfortable with the fact that I don't use my phone nearly that often. And number two, when I talk about my Christmas marathon and that we did all of these things in this 2 week period, the number of people who are like, that's crazy, you should stop. And I'm like, I hear you. It is important to me to make time for people and to give this gift of time. This is our very first Christmas season with Maxine. There's a lot of birth family that, like, this is a hard transition. This is
There's a lot of birth
for
family
them.
who didn't get the last 2 Christmases with her.
They did not get
Or
a Christmas with her at all. And so it matters to me to show up well and to say, yeah, I'm extra tired and this is a lot of coordination. And it is important. This year, it is important to me to make this time. And so the number of people who told me, you should stop, don't do that. And I'm like, I hear you. And of all the people, I'm very comfortable that I am a good boundary setter. And I don't think nobody has stepped on my boundaries in this way.
So then I have a couple things. Well, so when we went through a season different but similar, Josh's senior year of high school, his senior season of playing soccer, where he was club soccer and high school soccer. Lexi was club soccer and high school soccer. It was intense. It was very intense for this whole season. Like you could look for from September to mid-December, and we were going to have very few days that we were not in our car for at least an hour a day, and besides school drop-offs. And I said to my husband, like, we signed up. We're not going to complain about this. We're going to enjoy every minute of it. We're going to laugh a lot. We're going to be really tired. And when it's over, like, this is it, especially Josh's senior season. And they didn't make it to the playoffs. I mean, Barry and I are standing in the stands just bawling our eyes off. It's interesting because that was also Sami's senior year at U of A. And so we had her marching band season. So we didn't even get Saturdays off because we were going and watching her play marching band. And that there was just a few weeks where we find ourselves in sports stadiums, just stands, just bawling our eyes out because we're like, it's over. And I was like, and we're going to feel it right here and right now. And then now people are like, how do you have so much time to travel? I'm like, how much time do you have to do a podcast and do all these things? I'm like, I'm not in the car 20 hours a week or on a soccer field or on all these things. Like, do you realize the capacity that I have built? You want to know how I can afford some of this stuff? Is because I'm not paying for club soccer fees.
You're not paying for snacks.
I'm not paying for snacks. I'm like paying for club soccer fees and traveling 6 weekends with each one. Right. And so I think if we are getting the responses from other people, then we may need to stop telling our story that way. Right. If you, or else you just learn who's not. Last night, somebody asked me I had shared, with us launching our new business, I had shared our business cards. I let the whole community vote. And this person said to me, they were like, oh my gosh, I could never do that because I would be so afraid of people judging me. And I said, I have cultivated a community that is for me. Mm-hmm. And she literally was like, I'm going to write that down. And I was like, no, yeah. Cause when I started traveling extensively in 2021, I asked on Facebook, like, do you guys cool with me sharing? Because I have some cool things that I'm experiencing. I would love to share my pictures and share our stories. And I had so many people that reached out and they were like, I can't travel anymore. I can't. And so, like aunts and uncles and stuff. And they were like, and it was also COVID. They didn't feel comfortable and safe traveling. And so they were like, we want you to share your stories because we feel like we get to live vicariously every time we do a trip. I get so many text messages, DMs, people going, I love your pictures. I never get, must be nice. People just don't say that to me either. They know that if they do say it, I don't hear it. Or the other thing is, like, if you don't like hearing it, you just mute me for 30 days.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not my.
And most people are polite enough that they're at least not going to say that to your face, even if they thought it. Like, fine, whatever. But
Oh, I knew in my 20s I had lots of people that must be nice.
mm-hmm.
And I think it was more of my mirror that was reflecting what they were. But I cultivated, and I said, and I think I am a community member who is for people. I'm always celebrating other people, and I'm lifting them up, and I'm like, I'm jealous in the best sort of way,
Yes,
which I stole from you. You know, like, oh my gosh. So conflicting values. Yeah,
so
to
being
land that
confident
plane.
where you're
Where you are.
Be where you are. And
be where you are.
And if you're like, no, this is the thing that matters most to me, let it matter most to you. Just like,
and name it.
Be okay with that.
Name it.
Yep.
Like, that's the other thing when I was able to say it out loud, because when I get super, super angsty now, I'm like, oh, wait, what conflicting values am I struggling with? Oh, I want to be a woman.
I have a slide in my Foundations of Communication, my Foundations of Great Communication workshop, which probably needs a better name, but I'll get to there. Anyway, one of my favorite slides on it, it says "Name it to tame it," and it's got a picture of a cat with like a little collar on it, and I don't know why, it just seems so funny because it feels like it's really hard to tame cats, but name it to tame it, and like it is part of it that if you can't name it out loud, it will be that much harder to articulate what is not working.
Well, and there's so many times that we're going to, in our either next week or the following week, we're going to talk about inner critic. And it's next week. So next week, we're going to talk about inner critic. And one of the things that I say to people out loud is, and it applies here, is tell me the crazy. Like, because when we have something in our head, it makes so much sense in our head, or it doesn't make sense and it's causing confusion. And when we say it out loud, then we have the opportunity to go, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that's what I was really thinking. That's so ridiculous. But until we say it out loud, we all think ridiculous things, right? That are unhelpful. Our brain just offers unhelpful things. And I got a phone call this week and somebody was like, I know there's one person on the planet that I can say all the crazy in my head. And they're not going to judge. They're going to laugh at how silly my brain is being. They're not going to think, whatever I thought about my husband or not that day. Like, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm that person for you. But when we say it out loud, and I don't even think you can say it to yourself, like maybe it works to write it down. I'm not a big journaler. You are. I like to say it because then it's like, oh, it's obvious there's the two values that are conflicting. So name it.
Name it. I love it. Next week, you hinted at it, we're going to be talking more about your inner critic. And I think what's going to be really fun, we're going to be talking about some of our just philosophy and strategy on it, and specifically why we think that firing your inner critic is not actually a helpful thing to do. So I hope you guys will tune in. Let us know if you have any questions in advance, and let us know if this episode hits somewhere maybe a little soft and tender. We'd be happy to share that and hold space with you. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.